A lot of times we overeat when life feels unsteady, we don't have certainty, and your body wants something solid. Hello and welcome to another new episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and I want to talk about overeating. We're going to talk about overeating today in a way that feels really honest. Because if you're listening to this, chances are that you already know what to do, right? You're not looking for information about what to do, right? You know the foods, you know the timing of how to eat, of when to eat. You know what happens after overeating, right? What you probably don't understand though, and what a lot of people don't really explain is why overeating shows up when it does. Because overeating, it's not random. Okay. Overeating is not random. It's not impulsive. And it's definitely not a lack of discipline. Okay. Because it shows up in very specific emotional moments. And these are the things we're going to talk about today. Moments where your nervous system is trying to solve something that has nothing to do with food. And once you understand these moments, overeating will start to feel like something that is not a character flaw, not a personal failure. And it's going to start to make a lot more sense. So today I'm going to talk you through four moments, four specific moments. And as you're listening to these moments that I'm going to go into, just listen if you can, right? Try to listen, don't analyze, and just notice what feels familiar to you and what resonates with you. But before we get started, if you're new to me, my name is Alana Kessler. I'm a registered functional dietitian. I've been in this health and wellness and mindfulness space for 20 plus years, and I have done all of the things. And I have worked clinically, I have worked in hospitals, I have worked in private practice, I have worked in yoga and mindfulness, but my passion is helping women, men, all people really fall in love with their body, reconnect with themselves, overcome any kind of emotional or addictive behaviors with food, and just really live your best life. So if you're here and you are new, welcome. And let's get into it. So the first moment I'm going to talk about that we often find ourselves overeating in is when you're finally allowed to stop being on, right? When you have that moment where the day slows down, it usually happens at night, at the end of the day. And it's not because there's anything inherently dangerous about this time of day. But this is the time of day where the mask comes off, the performance ends. All day, perhaps maybe you were managing yourself, whether it was your tone, your reactions, your productivity, what you were looking to, the reaction, the responses you were looking to get from people. Maybe you were managing your emotions. And even if you're not consciously stressed, right? Even if you're not consciously stressed, you were contained. You were censoring. You were containing yourself. I think that's such a great word, because even if we're not feeling stressed out, when we are managing ourselves and we're containing ourselves, our body processes that as stress. And then what happens? The day ends, the emails stop, the dynamics with other people stop, the need to have someone have expectations from you is done for the day. No one needs anything from you. And suddenly your body starts to realize, oh, I can drop now. I can, somewhat, relax and exhale and let go now. And that is the moment, the precise moment when the urge to eat hits. And it's interesting because some people will be like, yeah, and I get hungry all of a sudden, but it's not hunger, right? It's not that you're all of a sudden getting physically hungry. It's a relief. And if you think about it this way and you have this perspective, you're not craving food. You're just craving the feeling of not having to hold yourself together anymore. And eating and, you know, engaging with food and the sensations of food and, you know, the sweet, the salty, all these different types of flavors and sensations is the fastest way to feel that release, get that, you know, relax, kind of calm come over you. And so it's almost like a collapse that you're letting yourself feel, like you're letting yourself land without actually falling apart. This is why when we try to create rules around food, right? When we try to say, like, don't eat at night, or we try to say no eating after 8 p.m. or no eating after 7 p.m., it never works long term. Okay. It never works long term because this is super key. What your body actually needs is a transition. Okay. It doesn't need a rule, it needs a transition plan. Like any good structure needs a transition plan, a way to come down from being on alert all day. Right? So what the issue really is not the food, it's the absence of a safe landing from your day. Okay? So let's go into the second moment. So the second moment that we find ourselves overeating is when no one is watching you and you don't have to be anyone for anyone. And this one is a bit quieter. This one is a bit more internal. And it's often wrapped in the most shame, actually. It's when overeating shows up when you're alone. Your partner leaves. I actually spoke about this in a recent episode I gave a very personal story about when my husband was leaving, and I think the episode is called something having to do with eating alone. I think, it was a couple weeks back, but you can go and find that one. And, you know, it really does illuminate that when your partner leaves, when the house is empty, when you finally have privacy, what ends up happening is with that privacy comes this internal permission, this feeling of unconscious or subconscious permission, where you don't have to explain, you don't have to justify, you don't have to be reasonable. You can just exist. You can just be. And for a lot of women and men too, right? For a lot of people, this moment of solitude, of being by themselves, is the only moment they feel fully unobserved, right? So they don't feel like they're being judged, or you don't feel like you're being judged. You feel fully unobserved. And then this desire to overeat, or this habit and this behavior overeating comes because it's the place that you can finally drop the version of yourselves you put on for others. Right? It's like a reclaiming of your, it's like a reclaiming of your autonomy almost, which is so interesting when you see it that way, that you're not sneaking around. This isn't about like a secret or sneaking, although a lot of times we process it that way. It's really about safety. It's really about reclaiming yourself. It's a lot of times about autonomy. And what's interesting here that I want you to take away from this is, if you're resonating with this and you really do only find yourself that you feel free when you're alone. Sorry, if you find that you only feel free around food when you're alone, right? Like you have this relationship with food that this happens, right? You find yourself alone and there's this valve that opens up, this permission valve, and then you find yourself overeating. What's happening is your body is telling you something important. Your body is telling you that you don't feel safe being fully yourself while being seen. Okay, so somewhere inside, you don't feel like you have the permission, you don't feel safe to indulge or engage or enjoy certain foods when other people are watching you, right? You're for some reason. And so this is really important work for you to go and excavate your own personal experiences and try to understand this. So overeating here, right? It's not a rebellion. It's not like I'm alone all of a sudden, I'm going to rebel, right? This isn't a rebellion. It's actually a refuge, right? It's actually a place where you can, like I said, exist and you feel like you can fully be yourself, which is really interesting when you zoom out and you see what that really is saying about how you relate to the rest of your life. And then, once you know that, you can start to, heal that and create the experiences where you feel fully safe and fully secure being seen, right? Create those dynamics where you feel safe, have those conversations. So there's such a personal growth opportunity here. There's such a healing opportunity here. And so it's important for us to see that oftentimes these challenging moments and these challenging experiences with eating and food often are there to really tell us something. Okay, so before I move into moment number 3, I just want to remind you that if you are getting any value out of this podcast, to please like and subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to us on all social media platforms, on Spotify, on Apple, leave us a rating and a review. It really helps us get higher up in the algorithm, which means that the platforms will push us out and we can get more people to hear our podcast and hopefully help other people as much as we are helping you as you are listening to this podcast. So please, like I said, like and subscribe and follow us on all social media platforms. All right, moving on. Moment number 3. A lot of times we overeat when life feels unsteady, we don't have certainty, and your body wants something solid. And this moment doesn't always feel emotional, which is why it's easy to miss. Okay, this moment doesn't always come with like a visceral emotion, right? A lot of times it's like this undercurrent of just edginess, right? Nothing really bad is happening. You can't say like I'm super anxious because of this reason. It's not as quantifiable as maybe some other things, but there's this edginess underneath you, right? You're waiting for news, maybe. A relationship feels off. You're not sure why. You don't know what's next. Maybe your rhythm or your routine was disrupted. And your mind might say that you're fine, right? Like your mind might know cognitively that you're fine, but your nervous system knows that something is unresolved. And lack of resolution is a huge, huge trigger for overeating. So what happens is it looks for something solid, right? The nervous system, through the body, through our behaviors, looks for something solid, and food ends up working perfectly here, right? Because it's predictable, it's immediate, it creates a sense of productivity and something happening in control when the rest of life might feel vague or unstable. And so you're not eating because you're hungry, right? Again, you might think you're hungry. And again, I hear this a lot from clients where they'll be like, I don't know, I'm just got hungry. But again, we're learning how to discern the emotional from the physical. So you're not eating because you're actually physiologically hungry. You're eating because your body wants grounding, right? Your body wants certainty. It wants resolution. And this is why overeating often spikes during transition periods, during waiting periods, during in-between seasons, because food and eating becomes a temporary anchor. And the mistake that I see a lot of people make is trying to remove or manage or fix the anchor, which is the food, instead of addressing the instability underneath it. Okay, so you want to not focused so much on the food and trying to control the food, and again, going on a diet or like throwing out everything or trying to, micromanage the actual food, it's really recognizing and tending to the instability that's underneath it, really trying to get familiar with it and use your tools to process and work through it as much as possible so that food doesn't need to be this temporary anchor in the way it is right now. All right, last moment number 4. You've built a good life. From the outside, it looks like you have it all together. You eat clean, you work hard, you take care of everyone, but there's this one area that still feels impossible to master, and that is food. You can eat perfectly all day and still end up in the kitchen at night wondering why you keep doing this. You promise yourself you'll start fresh tomorrow, and I know you mean it every single time. But the cycle, it always finds its way back, especially when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed, or when you're just tired of being the one that's holding it all together. And I get it because I lived that way for years. And what I learned is this: the problem, it was never about food. It was the pressure underneath it, the perfectionism, the self-doubt, the part of me that never felt safe and secure to just be me. And that's why I created the sober eating sequence. It's a proven 3-phase method that rewires the emotional patterns and the belief systems driving overeating so you can relax, trust yourself around food, and release weight completely naturally, without force and without obsession. Because when your body feels secure, it lets go. The cravings quiet, the self-punishment, it softens, and food, it stops being the thing that you have to fix. This is not another plan. This isn't another rule book. It's a revolutionary transformation for your nervous system, for your body, and for your identity. So join the sober eating movement today. And I think this one is one that many people will resonate with, which is when you've been quote unquote good, right? Good with your diet, and your body is done cooperating. Okay. Your body is totally over you, done cooperating. And this one is interesting because overeating, it doesn't just follow like chaotic times, right? It's not just something that is super chaotic. It oftentimes is something that happens, when you've been super controlling of yourself, right? When you were super disciplined, you followed a plan, you held back, and your body noticed, right? Your body noticed this restriction. Your body noticed the extreme kind of change that you put on it, right? Examples of this could be like, Whole30, right? Or even intermittent fasting, right? Things that have rigid parameters around it that in the beginning might actually give you a sense of security because it feels like there's structure. But when the structure is not built from within the context of your life, the structure ends up feeling like a jail. And eventually your body starts pushing back, not to sabotage you, but to protect itself and to get back to its homeostasis. Because our bodies want to be neutral. They want to feel secure and safe in neutrality. And when you're restraining yourself this way, when you're, over disciplining yourself in a way, even if it is something that like a Whole30 or like a detox or something like that, it costs something, right? It costs something. And so when overeating shows up after these types of experiences, whether it was one day of being good with your diet or whether it was a whole 30-day program, it's actually not a loss of control. It's a rebound response. It's a rebound response. It's your body reclaiming what it was denied. And we're not just talking about food here. We're not just talking about calories here, but it was denied satisfaction. It was denied ease. It was denied choice. It was denied balance, right? That's why the stricter the diet, the bigger swings that come afterwards, right? The tighter you hold on to something, the harder the snap is going to be when it breaks. What changes? What changes when you recognize in the moment? And this is where it gets powerful, right? Like it gets really powerful when you recognize, when you start to see what changes when you can be and be present with yourself and you can name the moment that you're in, right? You could say to yourself, oh, this is what's happening right now. I'm about to want to overeat because I've been good all day. And I put myself in a situation where I set myself up because I was doing a strict thing for 30 days. And now this is why I'm feeling like I'm overeating. Or yes, I've been in a transition and things have felt really uncertain. And so this is why I'm craving eating, or this is why I'm noticing that I'm overeating, or noticing that you're overeating when no one is watching and when you're by yourself, right? All these moments, right? When you don't have to be on anymore. So it's really, really powerful when you can notice, and when you can understand. So the next time that the urge hits, or the next time that you're even mid overeating, right? Maybe you're in the middle of overeating. It's never too late to stop the pattern. It's never too late to interrupt what's happening. Just because you started doesn't mean you have to continue. So the next time the urge hits, the next time you find yourself mid overeating, instead of saying, how do I stop this? Or instead of shaming yourself or judging yourself or just throwing everything out in the garbage, ask yourself, what moment am I in now? Right? Am I coming down from the day? Am I finally unobserved? Am I feeling unsettled? Am I rebounding from strict rules, from restraining myself? And this question creates space. Curiosity, having a curious, relationship and conversation and dialogue with yourself. It might sound silly, but it's so important. Create space. Because then you get to choose a response that actually meets the need. Right? You get to choose the response that actually meets the need. And what happens is that overeating truly loses its power, not when you figure out some crazy food hack, but it loses its power when it's no longer the only option that your body knows. Right? It loses power when it's not the only option that your body knows to relax, to feel like you. Okay, so just to recap, overeating, it's not a character flaw, it's a nervous system strategy, right? And it honestly, it was an adaptive one at a time, given what you have been asking of yourself, per se. And when you stop treating overeating like an enemy or like a character flaw or something that is a failure on your part and start treating it like information, everything changes. Because the goal, it's not to eat perfectly. There's no need for that, right? It's to stop needing food as your only place of relief. That's what we want to get to. And, that starts with understanding moments like these that matter the most. Okay. So That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. And just a reminder, if you would like to enter yourself to win a free one-on-one session with me, we have a monthly giveaway where if you do leave us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple, and you screenshot that review once you post it to Be Well by AK on Instagram, or you email it to podcast@bewellbyak.com. You'll be entered in to win that free one-on-one with me. And I look forward to meeting whoever wins that because I love doing those sessions. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Alana, and I will see you next time.